Welcome everyone. Today we'll be talking about the Linux fundamentals. We are going to describe an operating system. We'll also talk about virtualization. We talk about Linux operating system and its features. We'll describe different distributions in the Linux operating system. We also talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the Linux operating system. We'll describe how to install and set up a Linux operating system. Under this, I'm going to share a website link with you where you like in that website, they're going to give you a guide on how to install and set up different distributions in your Kali. So also we'll describe a command line interface, and then we'll describe commands in Linux operating system and how to use the Kali Linux machine. So let's start with an operating system. So an operating system is the most important program that runs on a computer and manages all of the other application programs in the computer. So the application programs make use of the operating system by making requests for services through a defined application program interface, also known as API for short. So API is a software intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other. For example, Facebook sending you instant messages and you checking for the weather on your phone. This is an API. So API allows two applications to talk to each other. So in simple terms, operating system manages the communication between your software and hardware. So an operating system also allows you to communicate with the computer without knowing how to speak the computer's language. Without an operating system, a computer is useless. Here, because if without an operating system, your software cannot communicate with the hardware. I'm sure you know what computer software and computer hardware is. So an operating system is just a system here that manages the communication between your software and hardware. Right. So we have different operating systems. There are so many operating systems out there. You can research on them after this video, but I'm going to talk about 5 the most common operating systems we've all heard of. So we've heard of Microsoft Windows. Microsoft Windows is an operating system commonly referred to as Windows. This is a graphical operating system developed and published by the Microsoft company. So we have the Linux. Linux is an open source unique like operating system. I'm going to explain the Unix operating system soon. So we have the Mac OS. This is an operating system for desktops and laptops. Also, we have Android. Android is a mobile operating system based on a modified version of the Linux kernel and other open source softwares. Lastly, we have the iOS, also known as iPhone operating system. This is a mobile operating system created and developed by the Apple company. So the iPhone operating system and the MacBook operating system are developed by Apple. Then Microsoft Windows is developed by Microsoft. Android is a mobile operating system. It's a modified version of the Linux operating system. So we're going to talk more on the Linux operating system soon. So what is virtualization? Virtualization is creating a virtual rather than an actual version of something, such as an operating system, a server, network system, etc. So under virtualization, we have types of virtual machine. We have the VMware and we have the VirtualBox. So virtualization is just a container here. It's a container that helps you store things like operating system, a server, network system, and other things. So you can have in your Linux operating In your Windows operating system, you can have a virtual machine, either a VMware or a VirtualBox. And inside this VirtualBox, you can have another operating system running on your Windows operating system. So virtualization allows you to run another. It allows you to run another operating system, for example, on top of the Windows operating system. It allows you to run another operating system on an operating system. I hope you get that. So you can be using Windows and still run Linux operating system via virtual machine here. Like me, I'm using Windows operating system, but through virtualization, I'm able to run Kali Linux operating system. So this is what I'm trying to explain. So this is it. So this is it. This is the VirtualBox. I mean, this is what my VirtualBox looks like, and this is the Kali Linux. So currently it says the time I took these screenshots, I was running my Kali Linux machine. So this is on the inside your VirtualBox. You can have other operating system servers or other network systems still under your operating system, under the VirtualBox. I mean, so Windows is so the VirtualBox is like a container. You can store other operating system on top of your Windows operating system through the VirtualBox. It doesn't affect. So we have Linux operating system. So Linux is a Unix-like open source and community developed operating system for computers, servers, mainframes, mobile devices, and embedded devices. It is supported on almost major computer platforms, making it one of the most widely supported operating systems. So Linux is one of the most reliable and secure operating systems, which isn't prone to malicious attacks compared to Windows. So Android, which is the most popular mobile operating system, is powered by the Linux operating system. I said that earlier. So Linux has evolved into one of the most reliable computer ecosystems. So Linux operating system isn't prone to malicious attack. Linux, it's compared to Windows operating system. So once you're using a Linux operating system, just know that you're free from any kind of malicious attack as compared to Windows operating system. So we have, let's talk about a Unix operating system now. So Unix is an operating system. It supports multitasking and multi-user functionality. So Unix is most widely used in all forms of computing systems such as desktop, laptop, and server. So Linux is a cloned version of it. It's cloned from the Unix operating system. So now let's talk about the features of Linux operating system. So one, Linux is free and it's open source. So this means that Linux code can be modified and used for commercial and non-commercial purposes. It's free and open source. It can be used for commercial. It can be modified by any person. I can choose to modify Linux and then use it for commercial purpose. It's open source, it can be modified by anyone. So it's okay. The second one is portable environment. So Linux software operates flawlessly on a variety of hardware platforms. Without the worry of incompatibility, individuals can use Linux operating system on any device, which I with the aid of a virtual machine. Linux operating system can be used on any device. Yes. The next feature is shell and command line interface. So shell and command line interface in Linux includes essential programs that users can utilize in order to give commands to the operating system for executing the designs flawlessly. So you may also direct it to carry out various forms of commands for effectively carrying out the application. So the next one is end-to-end encryption. So authentication can help protect your data. Before you access some critical files, Linux operating system requests for your password. Furthermore, the Linux operating system allows for data encryption, so users can encrypt their data. The next one is extremely flexible. So the Linux is highly flexible, and a variety of desktop applications, embedded systems, and several applications can benefit from the same. It also offers a number of computer-specific limitations, setting for admins to allow only essential components to get installed. The seventh is best developer. So Linux supports nearly every popular programming language, including the C++, Java, Python, Ruby, etc. Furthermore, it provides a wide range of development-related applications. A majority of developers all around the world prefer the Linux terminal over the Windows command line. So we have graphical user interface. So a Linux operating system comes with graphical user interface abilities in the same way you can with Windows. So the Linux operating system comes with graphical user interface, also known as GUI abilities. It comes with graphical user interface abilities in the same way you can with Windows. So similarly, users can install the programs and the computer graphics will begin to work the same way that Windows does. So lastly, it's frequent new updates. So software updates are controlled by the user in Linux. So individuals have the option to pick and choose which updates are required, and they are a plethora of system updates accessible. So individuals can choose to pick can choose any option or can so right now we're going to talk about components of the Linux operating system. So I'm going to talk about 7 components of the Linux operating system. So I'm going to start with a bootloader. So a bootloader is responsible for managing the boot process of the computer and for starting the Linux kernel. It is also used to manage systems that boot more than one operating system. So we have the next one, which is the kernel. Which is the kernel? The kernel is the core of the Linux system. So the kernel handles the network access, schedules, processes or applications, manages basic peripheral devices, and oversees all file system services. So the Linux kernel is the software that interfaces directly with the computer hardware. So we have the init system. So the first process to run once the kernel is loaded is the init system. So a process is an instance of a program running on a computer, and the init system initializes the system to enable it to run other processes. So init is a daemon program. So init is a daemon program that acts as the parent process to all other processes running on the system. So init can be configured to start specific processes at system initialization. For example, when the system will be running a web server, the init system can be configured to load all necessary web server software. So to load all web server software. So the next one is the graphical server. So this is the software that controls how graphics are displayed on a computer. Without a graphical server, users can only interact with the Linux system through a command line interface. So the next one is the desktop environment. This is a collection of applications and user interface controls with which user interacts when using Linux as a desktop platform. So access to the desktop environment is usually controlled through the X window system or another graphical system. Each desktop environment defines its own look, including the way graphical elements like Windows, the pull-down menu and files are displayed and manipulated. So the desktop environment will allow in you also include a set of desktop applications for managing files and folders, text editing, running a command line session, and other common tasks. So here we have the daemon. This is a program that runs in the background, handling requests for a service. A web server running on a Linux server depends on a daemon, usually named HTTP, to listen for web server requests. So the last one is the application. So this is the software that is installed during and after the initial Linux installation. So most Linux distributions include thousands of different applications, including both of a network server and for desktop use. So now we are going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of Linux operating system. So Linux is a growing operating system, adding more and more users to its user base each year. It is a fabulous operating system and a great alternative to Windows and Mac. So, but its increasing popularity also demands that it keep changing and upgrading with new technology. So, like every other operating system, Linux also has its ups and downs. So let's start with the advantages of Linux operating system. One, it is free and open source, which is also the feature. So Linux software are also mostly open source and free. So you get a variety of thousand free software which you can choose from and easily install from the software manager. Unlike Windows and Mac ecosystem, Linux does not cost you and keeps you in a free software loop. You can use alternatives to any popular software free on Linux. So and some are good options while others are even better than the original software. So the next one is highly secured. So Linux is a highly secured operating system. Your security and privacy are put first before anything else in Linux. There are locks on every layer which prevent your system from getting hijacked. The cases of a daily Linux user getting virus are sporadic. So Linux does not generally get a virus because it is locked out. It is locked out malware and other software causing trouble. So, so the next one is easy to use. So Linux is the easiest operating system to use if you know the basics. So it is way more less complicated than Windows and Macs, but it does not have a steep learning curve. If you learn even the basics of Linux, you will love it. Linux has many different, so very simple and easy to use desktop environment. So easy to use desktop environment that boosts your productivity and an easy system to install any software in just one line of command. So we have the privacy friendly. So for privacy friendly, you get the right to privacy with Linux. So unlike other operating systems, which collect your data and use it to target you based on your online behavior, Linux has nothing to do with such things. You also get access to lots of open source applications that that in contrast to premium applications in Linux and do not steal your data. So we have reliability and stability. So Linux is considered a reliable operating system and is well supported with security patches. So Linux is also considered to be stable, meaning it can run in most circumstances. Linux also cope with errors when running software and unexpected input. So lastly, we have many choices. Between the hundreds of available distributions, thousands of applications, and almost infinite options for configuring, compiling, and running Linux on almost any hardware platform. It is possible to optimize Linux for almost any application. So we'll talk about the different distributions on we talk about the different Linux distributions. Now let's move to the disadvantages of Linux operating system. So one, we have lack of proprietary software. So desktop productivity software like Microsoft Office cannot be used in Linux desktop, and other proprietary software may be unavailable for Linux platform. Linux also lack good video editing software. So we have no hibernation. So hibernation is an excellent feature that every operating system must have. But either Linux distributions miss out on this feature wholly or it is unstable. Hibernation is very useful in certain situations and saves a lot of time here. So we have difficult to troubleshoot. So troubleshooting in Linux might be complex if you are not a tech expert. It is also hard to find someone to help you with your Linux problems. Every user faces different issues, and an answer to that might be available on the web. Issues are caused to Issues are caused due to different hardware and software. So we have the next one, which is lack of established standard. So instead of one single edition like Windows and Mac, Linux has several community developed editions called distributions. So lastly, we lastly we have lack of established standard. Okay, we have lack of established standard, which I just spoke about. So next one is high learning curve. So for Windows users and users with less technical experience, learning Linux is hard. You will need to know how to handle the terminal. It is very similar to the command prompt in Windows. However, the learning curve is every However, the learning curve of every Linux distribution is different. For example, some Linux distros, another name for distribution is also distro. So for Linux, for example, some Linux distros like the Linux Mint are made beginners friendly, while distributions like the Arch are pure pain for even experienced Linux users. So the next one is lack of established standard. This often confuses newbies. So choosing a standard Linux operating system for use is pretty difficult for beginners. No standard edition also no standard edition also means that the community is divided. So getting support for one special edition of Linux will be even more challenging. So let's talk about Linux distribution. So Linux has a number of different versions to suit any type of user. So these versions are also called these versions are called distributions or distros for short. So nearly all distros in Linux can be used for free. So the first one is the Linux Mint. So this is a popular desktop Linux distribution. Linux Mint is based on Debian Linux. So the next one is the Kali Linux. Kali Linux provides user with amount of a hacker's toolkit and is used for penetration testing. So we have the Debian Linux. So this is one of the first Linux distribution published in 1993. Many other Linux distros, including Ubuntu, are based on the Debian. So the next one is the Fedora. So this is a community-supported Linux distribution sponsored by Red Hat, Red, an IBM subsidiary. Red Hat Enterprise is based on the Fedora. So we have the SUSC Linux. So this includes OpenSUSC, a community distribution, and also the SUSC Linux Enterprise, a commercial distribution designed for enterprise use. So we, we have the Ubuntu. This is one of the most popular Linux distributions. Ubuntu is based on Linux. Oh, the Ubuntu is based on Debian Linux. So also we have the elementary operating system and we have the antivirus operating system. These are the antivirus distribution. So these are the different distributions in Linux in the Linux operating system. Linux, it has other distributions out there. So we are going to talk about